Grew up in the 60s in my living room, watching Daddy play his old record player. He'd say, "I have all the greatest singers ever," and then he'd just sit there and stare. I'd tell him I wasn't sure about all the greatest, but you do have the greatest of 'em all. I'd tell him George Jones was the greatest. He'd shake his head and laugh and sing along. Got a taste of what George sang about in the 70s. I thought a bar with George Jones on a jukebox and a bottle of Jack Daniels was my home. I drank my way through the 80s and the 90s. Me, Jack Daniels and Mr. Jones. Oh, me, Jack Daniels and Mr. Jones. Now here it is, 2015. Had to give up Jack Daniels and the bars. My dad's no longer here, but I still have his old record player, and I sit here and play it all night long. And there's one thing that is clear: George Jones is still the greatest of 'em all. Oh, George Jones is still the greatest of 'em all. Me, Daddy, and George Jones.